Static Shock was one of my favorite shows growing up. It shaped a lot of what I like and dislike about animated shows, anime, anything in the animated world. He was just so cool, man. Like, his drip was immaculate. The color scheme, the hoverboard, the powers, everything about this man screamed eternal drip. And while I was sad to see the animated series go when I was younger, I was even more disheartened to find out what happened to the comic series. See, the character of Virgil Hawkins would eventually be lost in DC's mythos as the last comic was released in 2012, about a year after the original creator's passing. But there's still hope for the shocking hero yet. Today, we'll be discussing Static's publication history, powers and abilities, and his role in the DC universe as a whole. And we'll give a little detail about what might happen next for this prolific title. My name is DZ. Let's begin. So if you don't know or ever heard of Static Shock, I'm honestly looking at you sideways at this point. He was just so cool, man. Y'all don't even know. He had me trying to learn how to skateboard when I was like 11 just so I can learn to act like I'm hovering like him. I honestly think the reason why my favorite color is blue is because of Static. He was so cool, bro. What? Y'all don't understand. He was just so fire. And the show was in a completely different universe than what we most thought the comic line was. See, Milestone Media was the name of the company where Static Shock originally came from, and Dwayne McDuffie was the one who originally wrote him. The first comic of Static was set in the Dakotaverse by Milestone Comics in 1993, however it wasn't around very long. Milestone has always been under the umbrella of DC, so they published whatever they wanted at a fee so they can use DC's publishing system. Oh my gosh, I've messed this line up like 15 times. Basically, this is an editor's note right here. Basically, think of DC being a third party to Milestone's comic sales, just piping them up and helping them boost their ratings. But it was kind of short-lived anyway because Milestone shut down its comic book section of its business in 1997 due to poor sales. But that was when Marvel was going bankrupt and comic sales were going down in the industry in general. Nevertheless, DC still saw use of the character Static in the Dakotaverse as a whole, which led to the animated series in 2000. The success of Static Shock was short-lived. It only lasted like 4 years on air, but that doesn't mean it wasn't without its success. It won awards, sold a fair amount of merchandise, and was popular enough to warrant DC picking back up the serialization of the comics for a short time. But again, when I say short, I mean it. See, the last comic was released in 2012, and there hasn't been much noise about the hero ever since. However, during DC Fandom, it was revealed that Static would be returning to print in February. That would be a fantastic birthday gift, so DC, please help a brother out, please. Regardless though, the character will never be the same because of the creator Dwayne McDuffie's untimely end. He passed in 2011, just a day after his birthday. He was preceded with work on Static Shock, Batman the Animated Series, and so many more stories that shaped my world. It was bad to see a prolific mind go, and I wish he was here to see the star shine just a bit more. But I am happy to see his legacy within Static live on. Speaking of his legacy, let's remind ourselves what the Static hero was all about. Born with the name Virgil Hawkins, Static didn't have any powers at all for most of his life. He was incredibly smart and witty, but that's not out of the ordinary. That's just Spider-Man, but without the powers. However, his ordinary existence, along with many others in Dakota City, changed dramatically when an event dubbed the Big Bang happened. It was an experimental mutagen that blew up and gave a lot of people supernatural powers, Virgil being one of them. But instead of using his powers for evil or, go robbing banks and anything, like doing whatever he wants, Virgil decided to wear a costume and defeat the criminals that plagued this city under the name of Static. Now, Static has a really useful but really obvious power set. It's a very versatile set, and it makes it seem like he has much more than he actually does. But he can manipulate electricity and electromagnetic waves. That means that he can shock people, use unplugged electrical appliances, throw electrical bombs, lightning bolts, all of that. He can even magnetize objects to throw, manipulate, or fly on top of them, stick them to walls, that's humans included. So he can manipulate almost anything besides things that are insulated, which is basically his only weakness, like wood, rubber, maybe if he gets too wet and short circuits. Oh, and somebody stealing his powers, that might be kind of bad. But besides that, he's a really well-balanced hero and has a lot of urgency in whatever story he takes part in. His wicked power set even got him the chance to work with the Justice League for a short amount of time, as well as the Teen Titans in his later years of production. Speaking of his production, we were talking about how Static originated from the Dakotaverse instead of the DC universe. However, thanks to Milestone Comics going out of business, DC decided to capitalize on this and use him for Teen Titans for a short amount of time. And in 2011, he finally got his New 52 title. But it was only for about a year, and it was canceled due to poor sales, unfortunately. That's mainly the reason why he's not on the Teen Titans anymore. He doesn't do too many character appearances or anything like that. The poor guy just can't sell. And it's not to say that Static is a bad title by any means, by no means at all. I love reading the comics, and I'm actually in the process of rewatching the animated series right now. But since it's pitched to the exact same audience as Spider-Man, you know, the 8 to 15, where everybody likes those really witty and funny jokes, and the superhero who has slight hardships but can do anything while under cost, that kind of stereotype. And his character, because he's in such a competitive archetype, he needs too much originality and personality that the writers unfortunately don't deliver on. However, it is prolific enough to have another comic produced in the near future, so that's something we're gonna all look forward to. And hopefully that will push Static back into the limelight with some help with the, you know, some Justice League back lightning intervention, something like that. But what do you think? Do you think Static can make a comeback like after all these years? Make sure to let me know in the comments. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can be the first to know about any new information about Static. And with all that being said, I love you all. I wish you a fantastic holiday season, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.